I believe there are three separate things that can affect the outcome of a game of Marvel Crisis Protocol. First of all, the sort of characters affiliation roster that you choose to take, your own personal skill level, and then lastly, the dice that you and your opponent roll. Now we can increase our chances of winning by taking more competitive affiliations and rosters and individual characters. We can increase our own personal skill level by playing more and more games and learning more about the nuances of certain mechanics. But is there anything that we can really do about the dice? Maybe. Hey guys, Rich from Richmond Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. And in this short series of videos, I'm going to try and explain the math behind the dice of Marvel Crisis Protocol and how we could potentially use it to increase our chances of success when rolling. We'll dive into some of the number crunching exercises specifically around attacking and defending dices in two future videos. But before we get into them, we need to understand the dice that we are using and how they differ from other games. So let's start with the dice itself. As we know, it's a somewhat unique 8-sided dice that has 2 hits, 2 blanks, 1 block, 1 wild, 1 crit, and 1 failure. If we rolled a single dice a million times, this is what the distribution of those results would look like. 25% of the results would be hit, 25% of the results would be blanks, and then 12.5% for each of the block, wild, crit, and failures. So it's simple, right? If I'm attacking with 1 dice, I have a 50% chance of getting 1 success using either the 2 hits, a wild, or a crit. And if I'm defending, you've got a 37.5% chance of rolling a success with the block, wild, and crit. Well, unfortunately, no. Let's take a quick look at another gaming system for a moment. It could be any game in the world that uses a standard D6 and requires you to roll X plus number to do a hit. A really good example is the Middle-earth strategy battle game. I'm playing it at the moment. And let's take a look at the Warriors of Numenor. When using a ranged weapon, they hit on a 4+, the exact same success rate as rolling a Marvel Crisis Protocol dice when we are attacking. So, rolling 6 dice for our 6 Warriors of Numenor, we can see on the chart here that on average, we are going to be rolling 3 successes. And that makes sense. We've got a 50% chance. We would expect to roll half of those dice as being successes. But we have a 78.1% chance of rolling between 2 and 4 successes. The key thing to note here, however, is that it is an equal curve. We have just as much chance of rolling 2 successes as we do 4 successes at 23.4%. Now let's take a look at rolling the exact same number using our Marvel Crisis Protocol dice. And whilst there is somewhat of a curve, it is nowhere near as balanced as a normal D6. It is even showing us being able to roll up to 9 successes, albeit at a very, very low percentage of less than 1. We could even technically roll 12 successes if you rolled 6 crits, followed by 6 more successes, but obviously the likelihood of that is so low, it doesn't even show on this chart. I'd like to thank the sponsor of the channel, Elysium Wargames. You can find them at elysiumwargames.com, link down in the description below, where you can find all of your favourite hobbying products, including, of course, Marvel Crisis Protocol at fantastic discounts. They also run a whole bunch of events, most of which, if they're Marvel Crisis Protocol related, you can expect to see me at as well. Now, obviously, this is just the attacker doing hits, but as we know in Marvel Crisis Protocol, in most circumstances, your opponent is going to be rolling at least 1 defense die. So let's take it to a really basic scenario to show the impact that these crits have on the overall dice in this game, with 1 attack die versus 1 defense die. As we already know, the attacker has a 4 in 8 chance per dice of rolling a success, and as a defender, you have 3 in 8 chance to roll one. Now, if we pretend for a moment that we don't explode crits in this game, This would equate to a 31.25% chance of dealing a single damage with a single die, giving the defender a 68.75% chance of blocking all the damage. Now let's actually add in the fact that we do explode crits and see how that changes the result. You can see that the chance to do 0 damage has decreased to 66.7%, plus the amount of potential damage output of the attacker has increased to 2 damage in total because we could potentially roll a crit, albeit at a very low percentage of 3.91, but this effect is only amplified as we increase the number of dice in both the attacking and defending dice pools. We can see in this next chart that even when we add in the same number of attack and defense dice to the dice pools, the advantage is always going to be in favour of the attacker. So as you can see, when we had 1 dice each, it was at 68.75% to do no damage. But as we add more in, it goes to 56% for 2, 51% for 3. Then after 3 dice and going into 4, it starts getting into the 40s, where you are more likely to do damage than not. And that's because of those crits adding in those extra potential for extra dice. Now, there are obviously lots of other triggers that can increase or indeed decrease the chance of success. Pierce, rerolls, counting blanks on your attack, having cover, negating damage using invulnerability, just to name a few. The numbers of them are vast and the combinations are almost endless. So in our next 2 videos, we will be covering the math behind the attacks and defensive rolls, answering questions around when to roll what type, and looking at what impact these additional abilities can have on the outcome of dice, and hopefully giving you a better idea of what you should be rolling and when, and maybe even giving you the edge on your opponent. Guys, if this video has been useful in any way, shape or form, all I ask is that you give it a like, and if you want to make sure you get notifications for all of our other videos, especially of this series, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you want to support the channel even further, we do now have a Patreon from as little as £1 a month or £12 a year, and one of our tiers will give you access to our monthly event that we're starting in the month of March. We also have a merch store where you can find lots of MCP inspired goodies and a Discord that's completely free. There'll be a link down in the description below. As always guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.